4th of February, Rabbi Moore, Parsha Hashavua with Rashi.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me, guys?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Good. You can?
Yep. Yes.
Good. Okay, great. Okay, let's start Parshas Mishpatim. I always say when we get to Parshas Mishpatim, it's now for something completely different. Because till now, basically dealt with the stories of our forefathers, and we haven't really dealt much with halachas. And comes to Parshas Mishpatim, that's when we see the whole style of Rashi changes when we're dealing with halachas. Basically, the Pesukim are telling us different halachas. It's interesting. Parshas Mishpatim is basically governs all civil laws. It's not. There are some mitzvahs regarding civil law mentioned elsewhere, but the vast majority are mentioned here in Parshas Mishpatim. Okay. Lou, would you like to start off?
Ve'ela hamishpatim asher tasim lifnehem. These are the statutes that you shall place before them.
It's actually not statutes. These are the laws. Statutes generally are a term used which for laws, mitzvahs, which we don't have the meaning, we don't know the reason behind them. These are mishpatim, which are on the contrary. This is civil law, which is even among the goyim. Technically, they have these laws. But we'll speak about this in a minute. But these are the laws, the civil laws, which the Torah tells us how we are supposed to deal in cases of disputes and different other cases between one man and another man with regard to his property or whatever. Okay?
The Rashi says.
Okay. Says now, which you shall place. So obviously, Kosh Baruch Hu's addressing Moshe over here. Okay? Asher tosim lifneihem, that you shall place before them. Meaning Moshe Rabbeinu is supposed to place before the Jewish people. Okay? Let's see the Rashi here.
Ve'ela hamishpatim kol makom shene'amar Elah. In every place where it says the word Elah, pasal.
Without a vav. By the way, without a vav.
Elah instead of ve'ela?
Yeah.
Pasal es harishonim. It rejected that which was previously stated. Ve'ela mosif al harishonim. If it says Ela with a vav, it adds to that which had been previously stated.
Right. It's like a continuation.
So I have a question about this then. What about the Parsha Pekude that doesn't start with the Elah? Just starts with Elah.
Correct.
So would this Rashi apply to that too? That it rejects everything?
Yes. Yeah, but so the question is, what does Eila, reject.
Ah, okay.
But we'll see Bez Hashem when we get there.
Okay, well, wait. Coming attractions. Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Okay.
Ma
Yeah,
harish
continue, please.
mi Sinai. Just as those which were previously stated are from Sinai, af elu mi Sinai. So too these are from Sinai. V'lama nismicha parashas dinin lefarashas mizbeach. And why was the section that deals with judicial cases juxtaposed with the passage that deals with the altar? Lamar lecha shetasim Sanhedrin etzel hamikdash. To tell you that you should place the Sanhedrin adjacent to the Beis Hamikdash.
Right. Which, in fact, the seat of the place where the Sanhedrin presided was in a section which was next to the Azora, next to the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash. In fact, there was a part of the Sanhedrin would preside with the seat where the Sanhedrin sat when they presided. That was called the Lishkas Hagozis. They literally translated the Hall of Hewn Stone. But a section of that was considered in the Azara, in the part which had a Kedusha. So it was mamish part of in the same building, shall we say. The Lishkas Hagozis was adjacent to the Azara. It was right next to the Azara. And the idea behind it is, you want to say something?
No, sorry.
Hello?
Yes.
Anyway, the idea behind it is, in most religions, except Judaism, judging judicial disputes has nothing to do with religion.
Right.
Right? Religion goes, religion covers the way man interacts with God, right? How he prays to God, maybe even how he. But in other words, it's really in his. When a person's on a spiritual plane, that's where religion comes in. But it doesn't come into the physical plane very little. Okay? So maybe how he eats, how he deals, treats his fellow man, how he judicial aspects are not considered a religious part of the religion at all. Right? Whereas here, the idea is that the Sanhedrin is the seat of the Sanhedrin is adjacent to the Beis Hamikdash, indicates that it's all one religion, meaning whether the person is actually bringing korbanos or whether he's having a dispute with somebody else and he's bringing it to be judged by the Sanhedrin next door, this is all the same religion, right? There's no concept of a guy being very religious and he's bringing korbanos and the way he treats his fellow man, right? He's an absolute crook, right? There's no such concept in Judaism. You got a person's got to be perfect and carefully abide all the mitzvahs, both ben adam lamokom, between him and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and ben adam lachaveroi, between him and his fellow man. They go both hand in hand. They'll go even one step further. That Lamaisa, every mitzvah of Ben Adam L'Chaverei, means interpersonal mitzvahs, are basically every mitzvah has both aspects. You know, your person's acting properly towards his fellow man, and since this is what is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's will, he's also fulfilling a mitzvah between him and himself and HaKadosh Baruch Hu by interacting properly with his fellow man. He's also fulfilling a mitzvah ben Adam Lamakom as well. Okay?
Good.
Right. Let's continue.
Asher tasim lifnehem, that you shall place before them. Amar lo Hakadosh Baruch Hu Moshe. Hashem said to Moshe, Lo Sa'aleh al Da'at Cha Lomar. It should not occur to you to say, Ashne Lahem Ha Perek V'ha Lacha Shetayim O Shalosh Pa'amim. I shall teach them the chapter and the law 2 or 3 times. Ad Shetehei Sedura Bifihem Ke Mishnasa, until it is set in order in their mouths according to its format.
Right, meaning they're fluent. They know the details of the halacha fluently. However, ve'eni matriach atzmi lehavinon ta'amei hadaba. Hurry on.
But I shall not trouble myself to make them understand the reasons for the matter, Upei Rusho, and its explanation. L'chach ne'amar, therefore it says, Asher tasim lifnehem, that you shall place before them. B'shulchan ha'aruch umochan lechol lifnei hadam, like a table that is set and prepared to be eaten from before a person.
Right. In other words, when the Torah tells you should we should place before them, means that Moshe Rabbeinu was not just obliged to teach us the details of the halacha of every mitzvah, but he also had to give us the reason behind it. That we should understand why, the wheres and whys, why HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us the mitzvah. So therefore, we should place it now. So the Lashon Tosim means to place, present it before the Jewish people, K'shulchan ha'aruch, like a set table. By the way, this is the source where Joseph Caro got to call his monumental work. He called it the Shulchan Aruch. It's derived from this Rashi. Okay?
Lifneihem, before them. Velo lifnei goyim, but not before non-Jews. Va'afilu yadata bedin echad. Even if you know about a certain matter of law, Shehem Danin Oso Kidine Yisrael, that they are judged according to the law of Israel. Al Tivi Ehu Be'ar Ba'os Shalahem. Do not bring it to their courts. Sheha Mevi Dine Yisrael Lifnei Goyim. For one who brings legal matters of Israel before non-Jews, Mechalel es Hashem, desecrates the name. Umeyaker shame avodah zarah, and accords esteem to idol worship. To the name of idol worship.
Right.
Lahacha Shiva, by attributing importance to it.
Right.
Ki lo ki.
Shenema, it says, Shenema, so you don't have that?
I don't have. Oh, Shene'emar ki lo kitsurenu. As it says, for their rock is not Teram ve'oivenu palilim, like our rock.
Right. Their rock is not like our rock, which means the deity in which they believe has no anywhere in comparison to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yet, V'oivenu plilim, our enemies are judging over us. Okay? And that's what Rashi says, Kisha'oivenu plilim, carry on the Rashi.
When our enemies judge us, Zahu edus le'ilui yir asam, that it is a testimony to the superiority of their deity.
Right. Therefore, in a way, in other words, if you take it to their courts when they judge differently from the Jewish, how a Bezdin would judge it, so you can understand. Okay, in other words, he thinks that if he takes it to a Bezdin, he's going to lose the case. So I'll take it to the Goisha courts, and then maybe have a chance of winning the case.
Oh.
Okay, so then he's got a ulterior motive for bringing it to a Goisha court. Okay, but that's not necessarily he holds of the Avodah Zarah. He wants his money, so he brings it to the Goisha court where they're going to judge him he's more likely to win the case than if he would bring it to a Bezdin where he's all likely to lose the case. That would be one case, one situation. But here, that's what Rashi's saying. If he knows that the non-Jewish court, the Goisha courts, will judge the same way as Bezdin will judge it, then him bringing it before the Goisha court is much worse. Because if you know they're going to have it's going to be the same, the result is going to be the same, so why are you taking it to a Goisha court? Bring it to a Bezdin, bring it to a Jewish court. Elamai, you want to show that the Goisha courts are more important, have more value, more esteem than the Bezdin has. So therefore, that's in a way that's worse. To bring a case before a non-Jewish court, this will, in a way, give credence to the non-Jewish I mean, even nowadays, when we don't have such things as Avodah Zorah as we know it, but it gives credence to the non-Jewish judicial system. He's saying, look, why doesn't he go to his own Jewish court? Why does he come to our courts? Must be that he holds our courts to be more prestigious than his court, than the Jewish courts. And that in itself is a Chilul Hashem. Yeah. By the way, I mean, here in this country, they're taking to the civil secular courts, right? Obviously, it's not necessarily Avodah Zorah, but this union of Chilul Hashem is still applicable. That in fact that you give more credence to the secular courts than to Bezdin. And by the way, you should know something in most instances, even in cases of legal matters, I mean civil matters, like a civil dispute a person has over a money dispute, if both sides sign an agreement that they accept the psak, they accept the decision of the Bezdin to be binding, then that is binding even in the secular courts. The person is not going to necessarily lose out by the fact he's going to a Bezdin to settle a monetary dispute. If both sides of the in the case of monetary dispute, both sides sign a paper saying that they accept the decision of the Bezdin as binding, right? Then that counts even for the secular courts. Okay. Mayor, Pasuk base.
Okay. It says, Ki tikneh eved ivri sheish shanim ya'avod v'shvi'it yetzei l'chofshi chinam. Okay, so when you buy a Hebrew slave, he will work 6 years, and in the 7th, he goes, he's let out to his freedom, I guess.
Right.
L'chofshi chinam.
Yetzei l'chofshi chinam. He goes out to freedom for free.
Oh, for free. Oh,
Like he
okay.
doesn't have to pay any money when he goes out after 6 years.
Uh-huh.
Doesn't have to pay any redemption money.
Okay.
Okay. Now, says Rashi.
Okay. Ki tikneh eved ivri. Okay, when you purchase a Hebrew slave. Eved.
Now, Rashi, this is exactly the point which Rashi is going to discuss now. Does this mean, because there's an interesting grammatical point over here, the term Eved Ivri could mean Eved as the noun and Ivri as the adjective, in which you mean a Hebrew slave.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Or it could be construed as Eved being a construct noun, right? The servant of, and Ivri is describing who the master is. It's also a noun, meaning the servant of a Hebrew.
Wow.
So Rashi is going to exactly dwell on this point right now. Okay, so Rashi says, what is the meaning of Eved Ivri?
Okay, so Eved Shehu Ivri, a slave who is a Hebrew. Oh.
Right. So Rashi is saying that it's the first way which we mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? A servant who is a Hebrew.
Okay. Oh, Eino Ella Avdo Shel Ivri. Or it's
Or maybe not.
Slave, right, belonging to a Hebrew person. Okay, to a Ivri, Shel Ivri, of an Ivri. Okay. Eved, Eved Knani shel lechachto mi Yisrael. Okay, so a Canaanite slave bought from Israel, from a Jew, okay. Yalav hu omer, and about him they say, Sheishanim ya'avod, 6 years he will work. Uma ani mekayem v'hitnachaltem otam. And what do I establish?
Yeah, how do I fulfill and how do I understand that the pasuk which is stated in Parshas Bahar is nachaltem echem v'vnechem acharechem, right? You shall pass them down an inheritance to your children, which means that indicates that a person has a fully fledged ownership over servants, and not limited to time, right? Because if you can give them down as inheritance, it means you have a full ownership over the servants.
Right.
Okay? Right. So therefore, says Rashi, no, that's not a question. That if you buy a non-Jewish servant from a non-Jew, then you'll have permanent possession over him. But if you buy a non-Jewish servant, an Evet Kanani, from another Jew, I might think the din would be Yetzei B'Sheish, that after you've owned him for 6 years, then he goes out free, even though he's a non-Jewish slave.
Right.
And this is what the pasuk here is talking about. It's talking about not the Jewish servant, but it could be discussing the servant of a Jew, a non-Jewish servant of a Jew. And the pasuk, it would be telling us, if this were the case, that this servant, even though he's a non-Jewish servant, he only works for 6 years with the second owner, and afterwards he goes out free. As long as he's still with the first owner, then he remains in the full property of the first owner. But if the first owner sells him to another Jew, then he goes out after 6 years. That's what I might have thought. Talmud Loima.
Right.
Therefore, the Torah tells us elsewhere, Ki mocher lecha achicha ha'ivri. Right? If your brother, your Hebrew brother, is sold to you, so that clearly says achicha ha'ivri means your Hebrew brother. That clearly indicates to us that's talking about that he's a Jew. He's a Hebrew himself. That the servant himself is a Hebrew. Okay?
Right.
This whole din of talking about slaves which he's sold to you, only talking about who is your brother. He's your fellow Jew. And the pasuk's telling you, and that, by the way, that pasuk over there in Dvarim, chapter 15, pasuk 12, right, in Parshas Re'eh, that says also, the pasuk says, Ki mochelecha achika avi, ba'avodcha sheish shonim, he shall serve you for 6 years. So that clearly tells you that even a Hebrew slave, right, somebody who himself is a Hebrew slave, he works only for 6 years, and therefore, by comparison, this pasuk is also talking about Ki sikneh eved, a Hebrew slave, he works for 6 years. But if you buy a non-Jewish slave, then he's your property. You can work it, you can keep him for as long as you want. Okay?
Okay.
Do one more Rashi here. It's quite a long one, but it's...
Says ki tikneh, you'll buy him. Miyad beit din, from the court. She micharucho beginne vato. Oh, who sold him, what, because of theft?
What? Yeah, because of his theft.
Uh-huh. Okay, commotion
He stole something and he didn't have money to pay back.
Oh, okay, so it becomes your slave. Okay.
Right.
Okay, let's see. Commotion Amar im ein lo v'nim kor gnavato. Okay. So he doesn't have money to pay. Okay, and he'll be sold for the theft. Oh, eino ella b'mocher atzmo mipnei dacho. And this isn't so, I guess.
Well, maybe it's not so. Maybe the meaning here is not somebody who was sold by Bezdin, but rather we're talking about somebody who sold himself because of his poverty.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Avam mecharucho bedin lo
Bezdin.
say b'sheish.
That somebody who is sold by Bezdin, he will not necessarily go out after 6 years. He has to serve as long as he's covered the debt of his theft.
All right.
Okay, that's what I would think.
Shu omer v'chi yamuch achicha imcha v'nimkor.
Yeah.
Okay, so it says,
when your brother becomes poor with you, the nimkalach, and he's sold to you. Okay. You see that section which is we talked about in Parshas Bahar, that talks about if somebody sells himself. Okay? When you buy, the nimka bezdin, when he's sold in Bezdin.
Oh, okay.
So therefore, that's why. So Rashi's just proven over here that this possibly says when you kisikne ebedivri, if you buy a Hebrew servant, it's talking about you buy it from Bezdin.
Right.
Okay, and you're talking about somebody who stole, and then Bezdin sold him for 6 years. We see the Gemara discuss it for 6 years and no more.
Okay.
Okay.
The last one's Chafshi. It's L'cheirut.
Right.
So,
I think this is actually interesting. Maybe I'll leave this experience for till tomorrow. What the difference between the two terms are. Chafshi means freedom, and Cheirut also means freedom. So what's Rashi telling you? Okay. Okay, well, we'll discuss it tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem.
Very good. Okay.
Okay, before I forget, I don't know if I mentioned it to you, we're making, my daughter got engaged, as I mentioned last week. So we're making an engagement tonight at the Eliyahu Hanavi Shul. Do you know what that is? Called Petach Tikva 1. I would have sent you an email, but as you will realize, my internet's on the blink.
It's down.
So, right. I can't send out email. Okay, Chov Petach Tikva number 1, and it's 9 o'clock tonight. Okay? So if you manage, you're able to, don't feel obligated, you're most welcome when you come. Okay?
Okay. Very good.
Fine.
Mazel tov.
Okay. Be well.
Very good.